Wahla, and I have the pleasure today of interviewing my father, Nawaz Wahla. We've known each other for approximately 36 years. Today is March 31st, 2023, and we're conducting this interview today as part of the Connecticut Bar Foundation's History of Attorneys of Color project.
Thank you, honey, for doing this, and I'm very, very delighted to have you conduct my interview. So my name is Nawaz Wahla, and I am here in the United States almost 40 years. And I'm delighted to be here to conducting this interview for the Connecticut Bar Foundation with my lovely daughter, Zara Wahla.
So we'll just start with some background. So we'll talk about can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and how it sort of all began?
I was born in a rural village on a farm in Pakistan, and my 8 brothers and sisters. My childhood was really very interesting, very joyful, and I would say full of love. If I reflect back on that, it was a wonderful childhood. I had the fondest memories. The more I think about my childhood, it was one of the happiest, though it was also challenging childhood. We didn't have much resources. Didn't have much means, but it was wonderful childhood.
So I think there's a lot of beauty and simplicity, and I think that's sort of what you're talking about. Talk a little bit about your influence that your childhood and your family and your background had on your career. My father, I think I have been saying, for a very long time, he was the biggest influencer on my career. None of my siblings had the opportunity to go to college. My father was my hero. He didn't have the opportunity to read, write, or go to school. So he instilled in me school, school, and school. And whenever we had a chance to speak to each other, he would say, "You have to go to school for me," because I didn't have that opportunity. Did I ever know that I was going to become an attorney and eventually a judge in the United States of America? Not in my wildest dreams. So my father was the initial in my elementary school, gave me so much love and affection and influenced me to tell me that education is the best tool. And you can do anything, whatever your heart desires. So in talking about education, tell us a little bit about your high school and college experiences. As I alluded, that our school and that farm, there was, where I was born, raised, there was no electricity, no running water. These were the challenges of the school. Our elementary school was 1.5 miles each way, walking distance. We didn't have no stools and tables to sit on. We sat on the floor. But there was so much love from the teachers. Pakistan was a brand new. I was born 5 years after the partition. But the teachers were so much motivated. So from elementary school, my middle school was also walking distance. My high school teachers were so much, focused and determined to give their best to us. And those were also my influence outside of my home. And then they used to say, at that time, you can do anything you want. Many of my high school classmates, they have done wonderful in their careers. From high school, I think if I'm not mistaken, we were very competitive with each other. We did very well. Most of us, my close friends
They went on to do PhDs, and they did excellent in their schooling. From there, I went to the university after high school. So it prepared me to, with the love of the teachers, with the love of my family, my father. So those were obviously challenging moments, but also making me to aspire for bigger things in life.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard these stories many times, obviously, but it sounds like there's a lot of passion. Maybe not a lot of resources, but a lot of passion.
And you can overcome those limited means if you have the desire.
So you went to school in small town Pakistan, and then where did you go to college?
I went to college away from my village. Our high school was away from our own village. I went to pretty far away. There's a university at that time. It was Agriculture University. One of my classmates and myself, we both ended up going to that university. I would say it was 5 to 6 hours bus ride at that time. Then the name of the university is Agriculture University, Faisalabad. And I was doing my BSc honors in that university. When I was selected, the leading on to the next phase in my life, I was selected to become an Army officer as a cadet in 1972. I couldn't finish the BSc honors, but I was selected right after 71 war between India and Pakistan. I was a cadet and went to the Pakistan Military Academy from that university.
So talk a little bit about the military academy and the experiences you had there and sort of what that has sort of left you with. I know that has had a pretty significant impact on you throughout your life.
Pakistan Military Academy is akin to West Point. It was set by the British journal when they were partitioned. It's exactly still, I think mostly it's run on that model. It's very rigorous course for 2 years. We were 314 cadets, and we passed out 251 or something, 250 or 251. So that academy training is very, very rigorous. It prepared me physically, educationally. It's a leadership academy in many ways. It was a very, very trying circumstances to be constantly in the race in the academy, but it was very rewarding. I was commissioned somewhere. I was not the top student and not at the bottom, somewhere in the middle. And I was commissioned in 1974. I went to the academy in October 1972. I graduated in November 1974 as a lieutenant in the Regiment of Artillery. And that's set me on that path to become a leader, young officer who has all the attributes to be stepping in time of war and in time of peace. So that was coming from a very humble background, going to the Pakistan Military Academy, which is very prestigious institute in Pakistan until today, was a very, very major springboard for me to speak.
Do you think that's where you get most of your discipline from? Is from sounds like you had the passion from your early years.
I think I did have the passion, because if I didn't have the passion to become an officer from where I started, none of my siblings had the opportunity to go to school. My father couldn't read and write, but school, and school, that made me a passionate reader, so to speak. The academy gave me more tools to utilize those passionate, determination, so to speak. Looking back at it, you get to do everything. You are coming from a very humble
background. You are riding, you're doing polo, you are riding horses, you are preparing for physical assault, you're training yourself to go to war, you're training yourself to be a leader. It was a fantastic, and it cemented my belief to be constantly, endlessly striving for something big.
So you've had a little bit of a circuitous route here, so we're not really the path that most people take. So after the Pakistani Military Academy, how did you end up from Pakistan here in the U.S., and where did we come from? And let's talk a little bit about that part of it.
So I could never, like I alluded, I could have never imagined that I would be here in the United States, let alone to be practicing law and then eventually becoming a judge in the state of Connecticut. So it's, I was a major in the Pakistan Army. Through the ranks, I served about 16, 18 years. I think 16, close to 16 years. I was a major, and I was posted on the border of Iranian and Pakistani border, where the smuggling, a lot of, back then in the 1980s, there used to be a lot of Russian arms and ammunition which was being smuggled into Iran and then into Pakistan. So I was, one of my unit was posted, and I was on the border to be monitoring that smuggling coming into Pakistan. So we would routinely stop the smugglers, but on one of the days, we were outnumbered. I lost 3 of my soldiers in ambush, and we captured about 18, 19 trucks, big trucks of ammunition and Kalashnikov rifles. I was shot, 1 bullet in my chest and 1 bullet coming into my arm. My arm was shattered. And that I lost 2 soldiers right in front of my eyes. You were under a year old.
Yeah, I was a baby.
You were a baby. So when I was wounded, and it is on the border, which is away from any hospital or anything where you can get that urgent medical assistance. So I was wounded around 11:30 in the morning. They helicoptered me to Karachi, which is the biggest city, somewhere around 9 p.m. And your mom was somehow left behind. And my arm was so bad, they wanted to amputate that. And they couldn't find your mom to give a consent. So the brigadier general who was doing the surgery, he tried. I was very badly wounded. I was hospitalized. They took a bullet which was a half a centimeter short of my heart. They took those 2 bullets out. And during that process, it was very hard for you guys. You were put in a camp. I was in a hospital. So that recovery was very, very large. So I had done law while I was in the Army, in my previous assignment in the evening program, without knowing that law is going to be my savior, and I will be practicing law for the rest of my life. So from there, on that hospital bed for a very long time, I decided to take on this venture. How did it happen? I have zero idea, but it came to me that my career is done here. I was not going to be promoted any further, so I decided, what next? And divine intervention, one of my unit officer at that time was in the United States, and he said, "Sir, come to America." And I said, "What?" And that's how that journey started.
So basically fate.
Fate, yes, that's the right word.
So you came to the United States, and where did you settle, and how did you start your legal career?
So, three of you and your older sister and brother and your mom, on April 1st, 1988, you were still 1 year and 10 months old when we landed at JFK. And after a week or so staying in New York City, we went to Austin, Texas, where my friend from the Army was stationed. I started University of Texas School of Law. I didn't go through the JD program, so to speak. So I did my Master's of Comparative Jurisprudence. Your mom, since she was a registered nurse from Pakistan Army, and that's where I met her. So your mom, she went to nursing school, and I went to law school. And I would take you to the school because we didn't have a babysitter. So that's how my legal and your mom's education started in America. So I studied law for a year at the University of Texas. Your mom went to nursing school, and there was a huge shortage of nurses at the time in America, 1988. So she didn't, have to go through, she was already a registered nurse. She was a lieutenant in the Army. That's where I met her. I was a lieutenant back in 1976. And my legal career started at University of Texas, Austin. After finishing the degree, I went to International Academy, International Court of Justice at Hague. I did my internship there. I came back and I did my Master's of Law from University of Houston, and then came here to Connecticut, passed the bar, and after getting the license, 2 or 3 days after the license, I appeared before a court.
Let's go back to the University of Texas and your law school.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. How was your transition from Pakistan to America? How did your fellow students view you? And what influence has that had on your career?
I would never forget my first class in UT Law School was contracts, which was taught by Professor Saklo. And he was going through a case law offer and acceptance, and I was totally lost. And after the class, I went up to him and I said, I am so-and-so, I'm from Pakistan, I am a student. And he looked at me, he said, so you are unconventional student, so to speak. It wasn't easy, but it was challenging, to be honest with you. But it gives me my father's, constant reminder, school. It was very challenging. Transition was very hard. American legal system is one of the most advanced legal system. I did my law in the evening program in Pakistan, so it wasn't nowhere comparable to what I have done. But again, passion, determination, and will to do it. So the other students, like you asked, how were my fellow students? Everybody was wonderful. I remember you were still 2.5-year-old. Whenever we would go to a grocery store, the people were so Southern hospitality, so to speak, and they would say, "Hello, sweetie. How are you?" The people were very, very nice. Professor, I would not forget Saklo. I would not forget Professor Libowitz. A couple of other professors, they became my mentor. I had a problem, I will go to them, and they would obviously were very, very gracious, and they were my big influence and motivator to progress and to do well in law.
Did you have any jobs while you were in law school?
Since I was an international student, so I couldn't do a job. I couldn't afford a babysitter for you. So I brought you to the class, and one of the professors called me after the class. He said, we can't do that. No, I didn't have a job. But when we got the papers, immigrate, because I was an international student at that time. When your mom was hired, she got the papers at that time, but I still didn't have a regular job, because I was not a conventional student, so to speak.
So after you graduated, you had to prepare for the bar exam. So talk a little bit about your challenges and how that was, and where did you take it?
So since it was unconventional, because I didn't have the regular JD program, so to speak, and at that time, state of Texas would not allow you to take the bar exam if you didn't have the original JD. So what original 13 colonies, Connecticut, New York, they would allow you to take the bar exam, and I have to apply and get a special permission to take the bar exam to Virginia, to Connecticut, to New York. Connecticut was the first one to respond. I came here. I prepared my bar exam preparation with Professor Litwin. He is in one of my pictures. God bless him. He was wonderful at Quinnipiac Law School. Back in 1997, 1998. So it was hard, no doubt, because again, unconventional journey and fate. But I took it here in Connecticut. I passed the bar exam in 1999, and Professor Litwin was in attendance. We came from Austin, Texas, and the moment I have a license, I opened my office.
Do you remember your swearing-in ceremony? Do you remember your...
It was wonderful, my swearing-in ceremony in Hartford, 95 Washington Street, where I eventually had the privilege to sit as a judge in the same room. And I took so many students, who I took their oath to become attorneys, and it was so wonderful. Madison, I still remember, she was African-American young lady. She was with me, and she was with me, Professor Litwin's class, exactly in the same room where I took my oath ceremony, signing as an attorney, and I took, gosh, how many ceremonies of other attorneys. So it was fantastic.
Were there a lot of other attorneys of color at the time that you were sworn in? And what about...
I would remember Madison and maybe a couple of other people. I think it was total 30-something, the attorneys which were sworn in 95 at 95 Washington Street. So maybe 3-4 color, minority attorneys, I would say.
Do you think it changed a lot over the years? You said you saw a lot of different swearing-in ceremonies. Was there any progress?
I think there is a huge, quite a big progress. And, speaking of that, if I have to honestly, one of the question, was what is my biggest, achievement as a judge, as an attorney? So I think if I reflect on that, I always have been really, really, really encouraging people, especially, from minority backgrounds, especially female, young people, to go to law, pursue law, or whatever they are pursuing, education. And I have been a mentor to many of the people who, Mariam is one of them, a Syrian refugee, whom I have known for maybe 15 years. She passed the bar exam 2 years ago, and she has an own office now. So that's my biggest, I'm a big believer of diversity, people from different walks of life. My experience of Pakistan, my experience of my journey, immigrant journey, my collective experience of leadership as an army officer, as an immigrant, as a practicing attorney, gave me so much, wisdom, so much. As your mom would say, poverty has been our biggest motivator. Our humble background. And I always encourage people that if you are lucky, if you have all the means, reflect on it and be humble and be thankful to God and embracing people from other cultures.
So after you passed the bar exam, what was your first job and how did you find employment? And tell us a little bit about that.
After passing the bar exam, like I said, I since I was again coming back to the word which I mostly, if I have to pick this theme, unconventionalism. So I didn't look for the job because I was almost close to 40-year-old when I got that license. Nobody was, people might have hired me, but my passion was to open my own practice. I opened my law office. I got a room at 67 Rush Street with Michael Giorgetti, who became my mentor. I went up to him and I said, I want to rent that sign. I saw the rent sign. And he looked at me, he said, where did you come from? I said, Austin, Texas. He said, do you have any reference? I said, no. And he looked at me, he said, okay, come back tomorrow. I gave him the application. I didn't have the money to give him a down 1 month deposit, security deposit. And I went to the bank. I took the money on the credit card. I went up to Mike. I said, this is all I have. He took a chance on me. He took me on the 3rd floor where someone has ran in the middle of the night. He has left a table and a chair. And this is your office. I started that. From there, after 3rd day, I put the flyers in the mosque and other people. 3rd day, I had a client who called. I got the phone. Mike Giorgetti became my mentor, and still today he's my mentor. He's visiting my class at Quinnipiac Law School where I teach negotiation. He's been a grievance counsel for maybe 30 years. So he became my mentor as an influencer or whatever the label we put it. So I opened an office in one little room in his building. 3rd day, I had a person who wanted me to appear at the immigration court, and he had $500 for me. I still have that check. Well, a copy of the check. I needed that money. I did cash it, but the copy of that first check which I got. So that's how I started.
So let's talk a little bit about your practice. And I know the majority of it was immigration, which obviously ties into our background and sort of where we came from. But tell us a little bit about being an attorney of color and being a minority, what your experience was like, especially having your own firm.
It is obviously a challenge to, start, but I alluded that in my background experience, my immigrant journey, and my army officer, it has given me the strength to do, what I wanted to do. And it wasn't easy. 50%, I would say, was my immigration practice, and 50% was general practice. And community, my practice was largely community practice. When I say community practice, what exactly is this mean community? This was a community of, from all walks of life. Majority of those people were from immigrant community, from Africa, from South America, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, India. And they would have other issues, legal issues. 20 to 30% of my practice was pro bono. I would go to the court, people would have no money, and there came a time the judge would look at me, Judge Strauss and Judge Rollo, who are my wonderful friends. He would look at me, giving me the signal that, Attorney Wahla, why are you not standing up? So I took pro bono cases a lot for 2 reasons. To give it back, and it was a great opportunity for me to learn. And I honestly believe that people who came through our doors, someone gave me a good wish, prayed for me to be progressive and where I am and where I have been. So it wasn't easy. It was a huge learning curve, but I loved every moment of it. If I had an issue, since I took a lot of pro bono cases, the trial attorney, the judges, they came to know that I am not into this for money. Obviously, we needed money, but I had a lot of people who were so kind to give a helping hand, including the judges. I did pro bono work at the federal level, and we'll get to that in a minute, my judgeship. But my practice was largely without any money, without people who didn't have any means, people who are down on their life. And it gave me a great joy and a privilege and an honor to help them to navigate through their issues.
So how did you make that transition from being a lawyer to a judge, and how did that happen?
So like I've been saying, that I honestly never knew that I would be a judge, let alone, anything as divine intervention, and you use the word fate, has been so much intertwined with our family, with our story. Look at yourself, honey. Your grandparents from both sides didn't and couldn't read and write a single word. Not a single word. Here you are, a surgeon in the United States of America, and your two siblings are attorney, your brother working for the federal government, right? And your sister is a general counsel, been general counsel for a while. So I never knew we will end up here. So this is a great opportunity for us, and humility and a divine intervention, and a great opportunity for all of us to be here and serve this great nation. We've been extremely blessed. Coming back to your question, I never knew that I would ever be a judge. I never had a desire. I've never had a wish to even apply. So pro bono work, I did. So I walk into judge who has taken an oath from me that I would not disclose his name till this moment. So I walked up to him to do something because I did pro bono work for him. And I said, sir, I need this reference. It was somewhere a prosecution job or something. And he looked at me and he said, by all means, I'll give you a reference. That day was September 8, 2008, around 10:15 a.m. He looked at me. He said, Attorney Wahla, I have watched you for 10 years. You have every attributes to be a wonderful judge. And I said, Your Honor? And he said, yes, you heard me. And I looked at him, and he was dead serious. And honestly, that's the first time ever the word judge was attributed to me from a blonde, kind of a white, a blue-eyed, blonde, 6 feet tall guy. You need to be applying for judgeship. And tears started rolling off my eyes. He stood up. He got a water bottle, one for him and one for me, and he sit down. And he said, Attorney Wahla, if you are interested, I would help you. But there is a condition. You will never, ever, ever disclose my name. And you met him. Mm-hmm. After that, we met him as a family. God bless him. I owe him my judgeship. He would buy his own coffee whenever we meet. Remember, we met him and he bought his own coffee, and we bought our own coffee. So he became my mentor from that moment onward. I would never forget September 8, 2008, when this journey of judgeship started in his chambers at 450 Main State Federal Court.
So talk a little bit about the process of being a judge and how you got appointed and when. And
that day was very emotional for me. I cried all day. I went home and I told your mom that this is what happened. And next day he called me. He said, we need to meet. And he guided me to apply for application process. And it took me 2 years, obviously, from September 8, 2008. I was sworn in on October 5th, 2010. So I went to the judicial selection process. It's a huge, process. I was because I have not done jury trial. There was a couple of attorneys who had issues with that, and I said, yeah, of course. But I'm a quick learner, and then I got selected. I was sat on the list for a very brief period of time, and there came a time that Governor Rell, you were with me when she took my oath. You came from medical school to here to be the part of that oath. So I was sworn in on October 5th, 2010. So that's the process. But federal judge, God bless him, he guided me without any kind of, he didn't want nobody to know that he was helping me, and he got me through this. And I think it is his biggest achievement, if he can reflect that he helped someone like me to be, where we are. He changed our entire family history, so to speak. Allah changed it, God, but God spoke through him.
So tell us a little bit about being a judge of color and how that experience was, and how you felt that it gave you did it give you a different perspective?
Oh my God. The judgeship, obviously, being, is a very, very humbling and a huge responsibility. How much I learned from being a judge, I honestly, over 11 years of period of time, I was a little older. My other 3 colleagues, they were young, they're still on the bench. I was close to 59, 60-year-old when I became a judge. I had that journey, so to speak, traveled that path. But being a judge and having the background I had, one of the things when I was appearing before the judges, so I took this upon myself that I am going to treat everybody with utmost respect, dignity, and the day they deserve in the court. So I learned a lot. Being a judge, it was a very challenging task, that you want to get it right. And you want to get it right. I had wonderful mentor, again in the shape of that federal judge, and some other people, who became very, close to me. I had an issue, I would talk to him. Obviously, it's your decision. Nobody is going to tell you to do this way or that way. So I sat in my first, everybody goes into the criminal assignment. I sat in a criminal assignment at New Haven. It was domestic violence docket, where I started. I had somebody who was very kind to teach me and to train me. From there, I went to juvenile. I think the toughest assignment was juvenile. I saw young people who were in the system, whose families were very, unfortunately dysfunctional, so to speak. That has a very emotional impact on me in juvenile, because in the Eastern culture where we come from, and every culture, so to speak, family is the biggest thing. My biggest takeaway from the judgeship is humility. Humility and humility. Give people their day, be patient. You have many cases as a judge, but this is the case for this person who's in front of you. It matters to that person. uh, challenges for as a judge for minority attorneys like minority judges like me. I had a little added burden, my accent, so to speak, and people kind of take you underestimation, power of underestimation, which can be good and bad both. So there's a lot of attorneys who would take you in a different directions, but you listen with patience, you listen with care, but you do always ask guidance from God that give me the guidance to do the right thing. I never had jury trial experience. The attorneys who were in a judicial commission who didn't vote for me, those attorneys appeared before me as a trial judge. And I've heard, over the years, I did almost in 8 years, close to 100 jury trial. And I would joke with them, Mr. So-and-so, how I'm doing as a presiding judge over a jury. So it's a learning. It's a huge learning curve. You could be humble. You could be constantly improving yourself if you focus on the issue, not on people. I teach in negotiation to the young people. Focus on the case, not on the people in front of you. And that has paid me well. I left at the age of 70, right? Why? During the judgeship, because my father, God bless him, I hope you're watching over us. So I broke another record as a sitting judge. I went to Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy to do a master's in international global diplomacy. I wrote a $99,000 check for that program, and we came from a place where we would walk, sat on the floor, have absolutely no means, and that is the beauty of this wonderful country. So coming back to, I could have stayed JTR, judge, trial, referee. I did my best. So my next goal was and continue to be to serve at the at the diplomatic level. That's where I went to school. It hasn't happened, but I'm only 72 years young. I'm so wonderfully young. So let's see what happens. So that's now coming back to, there's a question, what we as a judges or attorneys of color should be doing for the most coming times for our future. I think we must be mindful that we can change things by our conduct, by our own doings, practically saying, yes, we can do it, despite everything around us. If people watch us, that we mean sincerity, we mean humility, we are here to do service for our people. That probably is the best motivation going forward.
So you're currently teaching in different places?
I started teaching negotiation at Quinnipiac Law School right after the COVID. Actually 2020 was my first semester, spring semester. I taught on Zoom with Professor Carrie Cass, who was my co-teacher. And then since then, I have been teaching at my own and giving back, so to speak. So when I retired from the bench, with hope that my dean, Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, Admiral Stavridis, was going to become a vice presidential race with Joe Biden. And he said, Judge, you are coming with me to the National Security Advisor. So Stavridis didn't get that. I didn't get that. So I said, now what? So I went to to my birth country for one semester of last year in spring to teach one of the finest and the best law school in Pakistan. And that was a wonderful experience. They have invited me back this coming fall. If your mother doesn't throw me out of the house, most likely I'm going to accept that.
So it sounds like obviously you've had a very long and fulfilling career. And we'll just close with, what would you tell your students? What's your final,
I think I would come back to service. We are here to serve people. You know, there's this, the money, the dollar amount and fees, and all, we all need that. But if we have the overarching, we all come to law, I might be wrong, but I think the overarching objective, if it should be service to our fellow citizens, our fellow beings, money will come. Money honestly will come. Look where we are. So my lesson, service, and service. People who cannot afford to be where, if they need an attorney, we need to step in. And obviously the people can take advantage and abuse our system. But if we know that this is the right case to make a difference, we should never shy away. My message is always to students: service, service, and service.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, honey. It was wonderful.